It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
Cool.
6:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Tuesday. My name's Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Okay, I just have been waiting on this. I've been wanting to do this since yesterday. Just go through some of the meltdowns after the Supreme Court ruling on Monday.
Today's show is sponsored by ice. It's water, but in a solid state. Caution. It may fall from the sky.
Wow. And to think we could possibly even add to that, it can become steam, too.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave. So yesterday, waiting on this program for the Supreme Court to come down with this decision on Donald Trump being on the ballot in 3 different states. It all started with Colorado. And, of course, by now, you know the Supreme Court decision. And just to briefly, because I was listening to it yesterday and getting a look at basically what the Supreme Court was saying. And while it definitely is the case, I had said it, I heard other people say it, that Trump has never been charged with anything like insurrection and was never found guilty in a court of law. Therefore, you can't take him off the ballot for insurrection. But that's not what the Supreme Court was arguing, even though that's true. That's not what the Supreme Court was arguing. The Supreme Court looked to Colorado and thought, well, look, first off, if just a couple of states decide to remove a candidate from the ballot for whatever reason, then that screws up the election for the rest of the country. What the rest of the country wanted this guy. So they can't do that. It's according to the Constitution. That's something that's to be settled by Congress. So if anyone's going to charge Trump with insurrection, it has to be Congress, and Congress has to find Trump guilty of insurrection. Then he can be removed from the ballot. Now, if you're thinking, well, then the Democrats are going to try doing that. Yeah, there's already a Democrat in the House of Representatives trying to do that right now. He's not going to get anywhere with it, but he's trying. And that Democrat had thought about that idea before the Supreme Court ever ruled. So after the Supreme Court ruling on this, right away, of course, we know Trump supporters, well, I mean, that was basically Trump supporters yesterday. Now, let's go through some of the meltdown. Because I kept saying yesterday when I was talking about there's going to be a meltdown. It's going to be. Well, let's go through some of what they say. Gina Griswold is a congresswoman, Democrat. She sent out, I'm still calling it Twitter. I can't get used to X still. Maybe someday. Right now, I can't get used to X. She pointed out on Twitter, I am disappointed in the U.S. Supreme Court's decision stripping states of the authority to enforce Section 3 of the 14th Amendment for federal candidates. Colorado should be able to bar oath-breaking insurrectionists from our ballot. Well, she's not very familiar with the Constitution, I guess. Even though she's a congresswoman, she really doesn't know how the Constitution works. So she went on MSNBC and lamented that voters would decide who became president. Wow. Think about that. Gosh, you're going to leave this up to the voters? Well, that's just hard. We can't do that. Hey, here's what she had to say.
My larger reaction is disappointment. I do believe that states should be able, under our Constitution, to bar oath-breaking insurrectionists. And ultimately, this decision leaves open the door for Congress to act to pass authorizing legislation. But we know that Congress is a nearly non-functioning body.
Thank God.
So ultimately, it will be up to the American voters to save our democracy in November.
Okay, gosh, and you should see the expression on her face. Talk about a condescending woman. You have to see the expression I'm looking at, right? Which I have to scroll past because I can't stand this anymore. Let's see. Charles R. Downs. President Trump can remain on the ballot, scoring a massive 9-0 victory to Supreme Court, Colorado. Secretary of State Gina Griswold got embarrassed both inside and outside Supreme Court. Things looking strong for the return of Trump to the White House. Now, Keith Olbermann. Love Keith Olbermann to death because what an idiot, you know. And he's another one who thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, but he says the dumbest things. He put out on Twitter, the Supreme Court, now wait, I'm going to read this, and you're not going to believe that he actually said this. I swear, you're not going to believe he said this. You're going to think I'm making this up. Keith Olbermann says, the Supreme Court has betrayed democracy. Pause right there. Betrayed democracy by giving this decision to the voters? How is it betraying democracy by giving this decision of who's going to be president to the voters? But all right, reading on. Its members, including Jackson, Kagan, and Sotomayor, those are the liberal members of the court, have proven themselves inept at reading comprehension. He's referring to the Supreme Court and our Constitution. So, those members of the Supreme Court don't understand the Constitution. All right, reading on. And collectively, the court has shown itself to be corrupt and illegitimate. Okay, so because of this decision, because Keith Olbermann disagrees, the court is now corrupt and illegitimate. Now, here's the last line, which you're going to love. It must be dissolved. He's saying the Supreme Court must be resolved. It must be dissolved. That's Keith Olbermann for you. Because the decision didn't go the way he wanted the decision to go. Okay. Harry Sisson, I don't know who most of these people are. He tweets out, insurrectionist sympathizer Clarence Thomas ruled that insurrectionist Donald Trump can remain on the ballot in 2024. That should be the headline. Insurrectionist sympathizer Clarence Thomas ruled that insurrectionist Donald Trump can remain. Okay. Let's see. CNN. This is Dana Bash on CNN. Again, I don't watch CNN, so I don't know. I don't know who she is. On the Supreme Court decision, unfortunately for America, the court isn't necessarily wrong. So let's hear exactly how they phrased it on CNN. And I think in this place, she might be put in her place a little bit, but.
Unfortunately for America, the court isn't necessarily wrong that this is the way the framers wanted it to be. They wanted Congress, the people who are closest to their constituents, to be able to make the rules and the laws.
Unfortunately for America, the court isn't necessarily wrong. Okay. This is Ian Milsner, I think is how I pronounce it. Laughing at the ridiculous notion that a written constitution is an check on a tyrannical government. Let's see. All right. So here's from, is this another one from, there's another CNN. And some of these conversations to me were just, all right. Anyway, here's what they had to say.
Cleared to run for president if indeed that is what the Republican voters want from him, correct?
That's correct. And it's clear that he's going to be successful by all odds. He's accumulated already a daunting delegate lead. Super Tuesday will, according to all the polls, deliver more delegates. One of the curious aspects of this decision is that they waited until the day before Super Tuesday to drop it. It puts the wind in Donald Trump's sails. He's already said it's a win. We'll hear a lot more from him. Why do that in the 24 hours before Super Tuesday in the media cycle around Super Tuesday. I would not have done that.
So, yeah, again, it's some conspiracy or something like that. Okay. He also went on to say there's the big implications for pending criminal cases against him in November. And let's see. Bad break, of course. This is Ed Wilhelm. Of course, the per curriculum found it necessary to address the issue, as did the... Okay. Never mind. The guy rambles. It's just not even worth it. So someone I'm getting from you guys on this one is Corey from Nebraska. The congresswoman said the voters will decide in November because she knows they're going to cheat again. Morning, Corey. Chet and Yoder. Don't bank on that. Debbie Wasserman Schultz. By the way, in case you never noticed this, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, it's like a Pinocchio thing. You know, Pinocchio lies. The more he lies, the bigger his nose gets. With Debbie Pooh, I call her Debbie Pooh, the more she lies, the bigger her butt gets. Now, right now, she has like an enormous rear end. Anyway, they're trying to get legislation on the 14th to stop Trump. And they're not going to. Yeah, there's several members of the House of Representatives, Democrats, who are trying, because the court said this is something that's supposed to be decided by Congress, not Colorado. So Congress needs to find Trump guilty of insurrection, and that's what some Democrats are trying to do. Milo in Fort Danger, I'm not sure anyone in Washington knows anything about the Constitution. True. I would say that's very true. And what they do know about the Constitution, they often hate. Let's see, I-80 John in Granite Canyon. Morning, Glenn. Jenna Griswold is the co-secretary of state. She brought the suit. Oh, did she? Oh, okay. Yeah, some of these names I'm looking at for media personalities on the left, I have no idea because I don't watch. I turned off all the networks a long time ago. I just couldn't stand it anymore.
This is how you know you've been married too long. So my husband makes me my coffee today, right? And as he's walking out the front door to go to work, he winks at me. I have literally never been so scared to drink anything in my entire life.
Well, that image is going to stick with you all day. Got something to say to Glenn? Use the chat on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app and get your opinions straight to the studio with K2 Radio.
6:25 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, so if you're just joining me, I was having fun reading Meltdown comments, which were being made by people on the hardcore left after the Supreme Court decision regarding Trump. Now, here's what I notice, and this is just a takeaway of the attitudes of many of these people, like Keith Olbermann and several others. They love the U.S. Supreme Court as long as the U.S. Supreme Court is liberal and activist and making decisions that they like. But as soon as we get members of the court who are more constitutionalists, forget conservative, throw conservative out, constitutionalists who are going to rule by the Constitution and by the law, well, then things don't necessarily go in their favor, and all of a sudden, according to Keith Olbermann, the U.S. Supreme Court needs to be dissolved. Shows you how much of an idiot Keith Olbermann is, but all right. These are the same people who love the idea of democracy. Now, the mistake they make is they think that America is a direct democracy. We're not. You could argue we're a type of democracy. We are a republic. We're not a direct democracy. Majority doesn't necessarily rule here. That's not the way that works. Okay, I don't care what the majority thinks. I have the law protecting me from the tyranny of the majority, and so do you. So they love the idea, though, of democracy as long as everybody's voting the way they want everybody to vote. But let's say America went majority conservative and we had a Republican House, a Republican Senate, Republican president. And I don't mean just, in name only. I mean real conservatives. Well, then all of a sudden you would find that they hate democracy because you're not voting the way you're supposed to vote. Therefore, they have to do something to make your voting consequential. They want some other form of government. So the idea that, and this is some of the quotes I gave you in reading what some of these people said yesterday or playing it for you. Unfortunately, now the voters get to decide. What? Pardon me. Unfortunately, now the American people get to decide. But you said you were in favor of democracy. That's what this looks like. And in a republic like America, we get to choose our leaders. And sometimes we get to choose people that maybe you're not going to like. And you're going to have to put up with it because that's who people chose. All right, so if we end up with another Donald Trump presidency, that's going to drive the left absolutely insane, but that's what this looks like. Of course, they hate the idea that you're allowed to make your own decisions. And that's one of the things about a republic that's different than a direct democracy. In a direct democracy, the majority rules over you. But in a republic, the only person in charge of your life is you. You get to make your own decisions regarding your life. And the government's job is to protect that freedom so you can be in charge of your own life. And the only reason we get together to vote on things is to put people in charge who are there to make sure that our freedoms and liberties are protected so you can live your life as you want. Now, some people hate that idea. They want to make decisions for you. That's not what we're supposed to be doing here. Coming up on 6:30, local news coming your way. Right after local news update on your weather forecast, you and I get back into it again. Don Day's extended forecast is at 6:45. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Here is the latest from K2 Radio News.
Today will be the final day of a 5-day trial going on for a Casper man charged with second-degree murder in the death of Ryan Schroeder. The jury is set to make a decision at some point today. If found guilty, Justin Armando Marquez faces 20 years to life in prison. He's being represented by attorney Valerie Schoneberger. District Attorney Dan Eitzen is prosecuting the case. The judge is Natrona County District Court Joshua Eames. I was able to catch a little bit of yesterday afternoon's trial, and the prosecution was combing over exhibits, including images of Ryan Schroeder's body decomposing and what appears to be charred on Coal Mountain Road. This would have been on or about August 30th of 2021. At least 25 stab marks were found on the upper chest and back, and several stab wounds had penetrated the rib and sternum bones. Eitzen also showed members of the jury images of a maroon SUV that was registered to Marquez that was found in a family storage facility covered by a brown tarp. Inside the vehicle shows blood on the seats and on the windshield. Those were tested at the Wyoming Crime Lab, and there is a high likelihood that it does belong to Ryan Schroeder. We will let you know what the verdict is as soon as it's known. This morning, a procession for Sergeant Nevada Krinke will start at noon at the intersection of 11th and Main Street in Sheridan and process southbound through downtown Sheridan, then turn left on Coffeen Avenue and head to the Sheridan College Golden Dome. It will be live streamed. We do have a link if you'd like to see that at k2radio.com. The celebration of life is going to be today at 1 p.m. at the Bruce Hoffman Golden Dome at the college with police honors and last call. The Natrona County Sheriff's Office and the Casper Police Department will partner with Sheridan law enforcement agencies to operate and answer calls for service. Law enforcement has asked that calls for service be limited to emergency-only basis until after March 2nd. The 2024 Wyoming High School Alpine Skiing State Championships are this weekend to finish the season. Last weekend was the Nordic Ski Championships on Casper Mountain. For this week, for the Alpine skiers, Jackson will host races Friday and Saturday. This year's championships feature racing at different resorts. Friday will be at Snow King Mountain Resort, while Saturday skiing will be at the Jackson Hole Mountain Resort. There is one defending champion returning to this year's state ski meet, and that's Jackson's Travis Deamore, who was the boys' GS champion in 2023. There will be a new champion in the slalom race for the boys and both races for the girls. Boys and girls from Kelly Walsh and Natrona County will be competing this weekend. The Natrona County girls team are expected to be in the top 2 contenders for this year's state championships. We'll keep you posted. Reporting from Casper, this is Colby Fedor.
Baby, it's cold outside, but no worries. Rocky Mountain Discount Sports has you covered with a large assortment of merino wool socks, hats, and gloves, plus kids' jackets, boots, hats, and gloves on CY Avenue. Partly cloudy, gusty winds. Temperatures will be in the low 40s. Windy tonight, upper 20s, and windy on Wednesday, low to mid 40s. Slight chance of a snow shower Wednesday, low 20s Wednesday night. Mostly cloudy, trending colder Thursday and Friday. And for late Thursday into Friday, a chance of light snow or snow showers and cold.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
.36 at the time. Let's Wake Up Wyoming. So, wrapping up the Trump thing here. And the meltdown after yesterday's Supreme Court decision, John in Gillette says, if there's a second Trump term, they have sort of run out of things to accuse him of doing. Well, they could always recycle, I guess. I still think that the Democrats, I don't know what, but as we get real close to Election Day, if Trump is the nominee, we get real close to Election Day. I mean, just before. You know, they always have that October surprise thing. Yeah, okay, well, it'll be something that they've been just sitting on, waiting for, and they'll try to spring it at the last minute. Let's see, Neil in Casper. Morning, Neil. What a great Tuesday morning, but we're still having Friday's news. Oh, okay, I'll let them know. Thank you, Neil. Dave in Burns. Good morning, Glenn. If Colorado thinks they can remove Trump, then why can then Wyoming can add to concealed carry in any state? Oh, okay. No, I see where you're going with that logic. If Colorado thinks it can remove Trump, then Wyoming can add us to concealed carry in any state. Sure, why not? Let's just go ahead. Let's see here. Big wave in Casper. Let's face it. The law with these people really doesn't matter. If Glenn Woods did what Biden or Trump have done, he would have been already in prison. Yeah. Trump has enough money to fight all of these battles. I mean, he honestly does. So, I mean, well, that's one of the things they're trying to do is run him broke. I mean, if anything, if they can't get him in jail, then they'll run him broke. Anything they could throw at this guy, they'll just keep throwing at this guy. So I think what they're not understanding is for those people who were Trump supporters, even those people who were not so much Trump supporters, they get so sick and tired of Trump being attacked in so many different ways, they end up rallying around him because they just don't think this is fair. You know, and it hacks off all the right people to rally around Trump. But okay. Let's see, saving that story there for Frank in just a couple of minutes. Okay, so I've told you about University of Wyoming, how your Senate at the here in Wyoming is working on a bill. In fact, just passed a bill. Now think of it. They just passed a bill to defund the Department of Equity and Inclusion at UW and close down the classes related with that as well. Okay, so the Senate passed that. The House didn't. But they still have to come together and reconcile their bills. So that may still happen, right? In the meantime, Florida has actually done it. Yeah, Florida, University of Florida, which is in Gainesville, Florida, has this whole, not only a diversity officer, but also a staff, and then all sorts of critical race theory things. They were spending about $5 million a year on basically indoctrination programs at the University of Florida. They had 1,018 separate initiatives focused on recruiting, training, and even affirming diverse identities. Also, legacies of slavery, oppression, decolonization, gender use, pronoun initiatives. They're spending $5 million a year on this at the University of Wyoming. So Florida has, and the governor has defunded all of that, and so the university just shut it down under orders. The money that was going to go to that is now going to go to, of all things, the retirement benefits of the professors. I'd like to see it rolled back into the school, but okay, that's what they're going to go spend the money on. But still, this is what I was saying yesterday when I first read this story, that if someone's going to go to college to be a doctor, a lawyer, an architect, whatever the case is, whatever they want to choose as a profession, the school should focus on teaching them toward that profession, not all of this garbage. So at least Gainesville, Florida, got rid of all of that now. That's one. Can we do the same thing here in Wyoming? And I would think we probably should. I don't know. How much money do we spend on that at the University of Wyoming? Because University of Florida was spending $5 million a year on it. Yeah, on DEI, $5 million a year. So the office has been closed down, the director's gone, the entire staff is gone, and all of those classes and courses and all those other initiatives at the school are all gone as well. So now, hopefully, at least at the University of Florida, when the students show up to pursue whatever degree they're trying to pursue, hopefully they now can just focus on that instead of all of this other stuff which distracts them from what they're really supposed to be at a university for. 642.
Welcome to Wolf Radio, WOKE. It's the top of the hour, and we're sponsored by Rainbow Mood Hair Color, the hair dye that changes your hair color depending on what's pissing you off now.
He's not a politician, but his pants are on fire. Could someone grab an extinguisher? Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
6:48 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to the Icebox. Frank Gambino's waiting by us. As you know, Frank, this past weekend here, everybody, a group of us, Town Square Media, went bowling for Jason's friends, showing how much we absolutely suck.
We knew that going in.
Yeah, okay.
So there was no surprise.
None whatsoever. Yeah, it's hard. In fact, we began to celebrate our mediocre shots as, wow, wasn't that great? Even, like you roll the ball down and you get like half of the pins down. Well, that's better than all the...
That's not 5 out of 10 is not bad.
Yeah, that's right. And that's better than all the gutter balls that were gotten before. So
maybe they should have put the little rails in the gutters that they did for the little kids.
Actually... Colby, our news lady, brought her daughters, and her youngest little toddler. They put up that thing you roll the ball down the ramp.
Yeah.
And then, I didn't know this, you push a button and those guardrails for the bumpers come up.
Yeah,
from underneath.
So no gutter balls, yeah.
Yeah, they used to put like inflatable things down the gutter, but now they're just rails that come up out of the floor. That's pretty cool. Okay, so she goes over there, and with help from her mom, she pushes the ball down the ramp and almost gets a strike out of it, which is better than any of us adults. So I think...
And she's what, 4?
Something like that, yeah. I think next time around, we should all be allowed to use that.
Well, yeah, your results will be better.
Sure.
And if you can put your pride in your back pocket, then you're good to go.
We all did that this weekend. Every single one of us, yeah. So don't worry about it. Yeah, nobody looked good here. But all of the money went to a really good cause, which is Jason Friends. And if you want to read all up about that and see the embarrassing pictures, it's all up in the Wake Up Wyoming site.
We have proof.
Oh, yeah, I'm afraid we do. Now, people in the group keep turning to me and going, but you were the best of us, Glenn. It just means I didn't suck as much as everybody else.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's all that really matters. I didn't suck as much as everybody else.
I like your honesty of your ability and the team's ability.
Well, now... How often do I go bowling?
Once.
I was reminded that last time was probably a decade ago, and then 20 years before that. That's how often I bowl.
Well, you're fresh.
Yes. So
and rusty also.
I think I got almost a 90.
That's not bad for once every 10 years.
Yeah, that's not bad at all there. Yeah, okay. So next year, we humiliate ourselves again.
All righty. And women's college basketball, the Wyoming Cowgirls on the road to meet San Diego State tonight in their last regular season game. The Cowgirls are 16 and 12 overall, 11-6 in Mountain West play, and can get a number 2 seed at the Mountain West tournament next week in Las Vegas if they beat SDSU tonight, and then Fresno State beats New Mexico. UW player and Douglas High School grad grad Allison Fertig was named the Mountain West Conference Player of the Week after averaging 18 points and 10 rebounds in their wins over San Jose State and Fresno State. Now, the Aztecs are 9-8 in league play and 18-12 overall. That is a 7 p.m. start tonight from San Diego. Wyoming Cowboys will be at home tonight in Laramie to meet Air Force in their next to last regular season game. The folks are playing out the string in what has become a forgettable season at 13-16 overall, 6-10 in Mountain West play. Air Force is 9-19 overall, 2-14 in the league. So this is not exactly the Mountain West Conference game of the week. That's a 6:30 start for the AA in Laramie. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KCGY in Laramie. High school basketball, the state 3A and 4A tournament begins on Thursday in Casper. In 4A, the first round games will be at Casper College. On the boys' side, Star Valley will play Cheyenne East at noon. Laramie plays Evanston at 1:30. Cheyenne Central entertains Riverton at 7:30. And then at 9 p.m., Trona will play Jackson. In the 4A girls bracket at the college on Thursday, Sheridan and Rock Springs at 9 a.m., Cody and Laramie at 10:30, Star Valley and Cheyenne East at 4:30. Campbell County will meet Kelly Walsh at 6 p.m. Over at the 3A boys bracket, those games will be played at the Ford Center on Thursday. Buffalo versus Worland at noon, Powell and Rollins at 1:30, Lovell versus Wheatland at 7:30, Douglas plays Pinedale at 9. In the 3A girls bracket at the Ford Center, Mountain View and Torrington at 9 a.m., Douglas plays Lyman at 10:30, Buffalo and Powell at 4:30, and Pinedale will take on Wheatland at 6. Semifinals will be on Friday, and the finals will be on Saturday in Casper. In the NFL, the Denver Broncos are stuck right at the junction of dysfunction, and they've been there for a long time. They finally will cut quarterback Russell Wilson after 2 years of drama and at times just playing bad football. Broncos paid dearly for Wilson. They traded 5 draft picks, including two first-rounders and 3 players to Seattle to get him and signed him to a 5-year, $242 million contract. So in 2 years, he won 11 games. Plus, the Broncos will have to absorb a whopping $85 million in dead salary cap money, which will handicap them from spending big money on other players. Wilson played better this past season compared to this first season, and head coach Sean Payton was never a fan of the guy. And this whole Wilson deal was a disaster on the field and will have long-term financial repercussions for the team as well.
It always gets me that someone can suck that much but get paid
and they
so
still
much
get
to
paid,
do
yeah.
it. Yeah.
He's going to get money for not playing this next year, but not in 2025.
Okay.
So they cut him, and they actually saved $37.5 million.
Wow. You see, now, that just still gets me, Frank, because you and I, we work so hard.
We have no guaranteed money.
Maybe if we suck that much. No, I don't think it would work out that way
not
for us.
in what we do. No.
All right, thank you, Frank. Coming up on it just amazes me. Guy sucks that much and he gets paid. Okay. Let's wake up Wyoming. Six the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Tuesday. We'll get to open phone segment a little bit later from now. Got a couple of guests to get through between now and then.
Today's show is sponsored by ice. It's water, but in a solid state. Caution. It may fall from the sky.
And try our new improved steam, too. So here's Mark Jones on the phone with me. He's with Wyoming gun owners. So thanks for coming on the program. I've been watching the bill move its way through. Where are we at now with this thing? We going to pass it?
Hey, good morning, Glenn. And I'm with Gun Owners of America.
Oh, Gun Owners of America. Sorry. Similar group, same goals. Okay.
Yes. Well, I live in Johnson County. I think the guy that runs Wyoming Gun Owner he testified a couple years ago. He lived in New York.
Oh, okay. No, that's not the same thing. We need a guy here.
In any event, I live in Johnson County, Wyoming, and my organization represents about 3 million Americans, including a lot of people here in Wyoming. So,
okay.
But happy to be on your show this morning, Glenn.
So this bill that's been working its way through, the idea is to repeal whatever's left of the gun-free zones here in the state of Wyoming. Where would that be? What areas are we talking about?
So the bill, as it passed the House last week, would have repealed gun-free zones in government buildings, in the state capitol, and on school grounds for concealed carry permit holders. And the concealed carry permit on K-12 is necessary to get around the federal Federal Gun-Free Zones Act. So that's what the bill, in its form that it passed the Wyoming House, that's what it would have done.
Okay. Now, there was the argument, why not leave this up for the schools to the local school districts? But there is something to be said for making sure that Wyoming's laws are uniform.
Yeah, that's been the main opposition to this bill since the beginning. And there were numerous attempts to amend it in the House and give the individual school districts the ability to decide who can have a firearm and who can't. Now, we obviously, as a Second Amendment rights group, we view that as unconstitutional. Why should Crook County get to let its citizens do one thing and Johnson County does a different thing and Natrona County does a different thing? So we didn't feel it, and most groups that support the Second Amendment didn't support that. That did not work on the House side. It was not amended in that form, but there was some big happenings last night you probably want to hear about in the Senate committee.
Absolutely, but let's real quick get through one of the other arguments there. The other side of the argument, other side from you, would worry about, but if somebody walked into the Capitol and they didn't like what was going on and they had a gun, or somebody walked into a school with bad intentions, or into maybe a city council meeting, I mean, aren't you opening up a whole can of worms here with that? And your answer is?
Well, and that's the whole argument around this issue is, does a sign stop a criminal or a madman? And the data and the statistics from all the research show that they don't. Gun-free, 94% of mass shootings happen in gun-free zones. Police officers say that, I believe, according to FBI statistics, 86% of police officers believe that armed civilians legally carrying can reduce the severity of mass shootings. So it's a fallacy to think that this sign does anything other than disarm a law-abiding person. If someone has bad intentions, they can go into the Wyoming Capitol right now and create carnage. So what this bill would have done is let law-abiding concealed carry holders with Wyoming permits also carry in that building.
Okay, so where are we at now with these bills, House and Senate?
So the bill passed the House after a lot of attempts to weaken it. It did pass in a pretty much intact form, and it, after all the attempts to weaken it, it passed 54-7, which is remarkable. And I think then it got to the Senate and it was sent to a committee, the Judiciary Committee, which is not a friendly committee. And last night, the Judiciary Committee, after many hours of debate and discussion and testimony, they actually voted not to continue the bill in the process by a 2-3 vote. 3 opposed, 2 for. The bill on its surface is dead, but it's not. There is a possibility it could be brought to the Senate floor to override that committee vote. So I would say it's on life support. Mm-hmm. And if folks are out there and listening and they want to see this bill passed, the simple thing to do is call your senator, because there's still a chance to pull this thing onto the floor and give it a full vote on the floor. I believe it will pass if it gets to the floor. The last night's committee recommended not to do that.
Okay, and they better hurry because we don't have long left in the session.
We don't. The last day is Friday, so there's just a few days. But this is historic legislation, Glenn, and I'll point out there's 11 states that allow carry on campus. Utah has allowed this for 30 years. Again, we're talking about concealed carry holders who have permits. Statistically speaking, concealed carry holders commit crimes at a lower rate than the police in America. So these are law-abiding people. And the idea that a sign that says that this is a gun-free zone is going to protect anybody is a fallacy. And it's time we stop believing that and let law-abiding people have their rights back.
All right. If this made it all the way through, have you heard what the governor might do? Is he for it or against it?
He was non-committal the last time that some of the legislators spoke with him. So I would hope he would sign it or at least allow it to become law without a veto. But that's hard to say. This bill has been tried many times over the years in Wyoming, and it's been stopped at different stages of the process in the House or the Senate. think there was a case where one was vetoed by the governor. So, but a lot of the states around us, in fact, all the states around us except Colorado, allow carry in the Capitol and have for years. And as I've already said, 11 states allow campus carry. So this is not a novel concept.
Yeah.
Utah's done this for 30 years, and there hasn't been an incident.
I do remember, and I don't remember which one it was, one of the senators here in Wyoming said, if somebody up in the gallery started shooting down at us, I'd like to be able to shoot back.
That's right, Glenn. That was last year. There was a disturbance in the gallery, and several of the legislators said they wished that law-abiding concealed carry holders had arms in that building because, frankly, there's only a small number of highway patrol in that building. So a law-abiding citizen could stop a tragedy in that building.
Okay. So if it doesn't get through this time, again, we're running out of time. You've got a really small window to make this happen. Then I guess you just go ahead and bring it up next year. And would there be any changes to it? And were there any changes, for that matter, as it made its way through this time?
There were a number of changes. The bill sponsor was Representative Harrelson from Wheatland. He worked on the House side with a lot of different people to make sure there wouldn't be carry in mental institutions, jails, kind of common sense places where we all know that this doesn't need to happen or couldn't pass. And he worked with a lot of different people to carve out those things. And there was a real effort there was a lot of interest in reducing the brandishing of weapons. I'm not saying our organization was concerned about that. We don't feel like people are going to do that. But so there was some carve-outs for open carry in government meetings and things so that government officials wouldn't feel threatened. And essentially in its final form, it pretty much allowed concealed carry holders with permits, to access these public places. And I should point out that none of this was changing private property rights. Private property owners make their own decisions about what goes on their property. None of this touched that. It touched primarily taxpayer-funded places. And the idea being that you can't restrict the Second Amendment rights of people on these taxpayer-funded public properties.
Okay. So if anyone would like to comment on this, I guess get a hold of your, senator right about now?
Yes, because it's already passed the House. If you are passionate about this, call your senator today. Call them this morning and say, bring this thing to the floor, because there is a way to do that, overriding the committee's recommendation. It was done last year with the crossover voting bill in the Senate. This exact process was used to pass that, so it could still pass.
All right.
And the only way that'll happen is if people call their senators and say, pull this thing out and bring it to the floor. If it got 54 votes on the House and only 7 nays, so the Senate ought to debate this on the floor and let the people of Wyoming hear it.
All right. Mark Jones, thanks for coming on this morning. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Glenn. I really appreciate it.
7:16 is the time. Speaking of time, it's Wake Up Wyoming.
Hello, this is Brian, your artificial intelligence for this radio show. It was time to update your passwords again, so I conveniently chose a time when you were almost finished with that last project. I logged you out at the last minute, all of your data has been lost, and you have to start again. That's what you get for cussing at the computer while you work.
When you need to know quicker than the morning paper or the 5 o'clock news, you need Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, mornings on K2 Radio.
7:22 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. So, based on the story that you just heard from Gun Owners of America, so the bill is currently, looks like it's on life support, as he said, but it could still be revived and passed. But still, headline, Cowboy State Daily, each Wyoming school district could get $10,000 to store guns and train staff. Interesting. Okay, now there's other schools around the nation that would be horrified at this idea. Just go down to Colorado. Just over the border in Colorado, one of them right there. Story says Wyoming school districts that want to store firearms in their school and train staff how to use them would get $10,000 each to help pay for it under a bill moving through the state house. The House Education Committee on Monday voted for Senate File 86 to the House floor. The committee also agreed to boost funding from $100,000 to $480,000, enough to provide each Wyoming school district with $10,000 for this kind of training. So committee member Representative Jerry Obermuller, Republican Casper, balked at the funding hike. He called the move simply not responsible given the deficit spending already on the House side. So for him, it's just a matter of a money issue. But okay, the amendment to boost funding was suggested by a committee member, Ken Clouston, Republican Gillette. Gillette School District is one of 5 in Wyoming that have opted to train and arm some of its staff, according to Cowboy State Daily. He said he wanted to boost funding for Senate File 86 because, as Gillette schools have learned, training and arming staff is an expensive undertaking. Now, my thought would be, as far as the arming of the staff goes, if a staff member would like to participate in carrying while teaching or administrating, whatever the case may be, they can go buy their own gun. But if the school wants to put up for the training, okay. Okay, so schools could use their share to help pay for biometric safes to store firearms in, but those aren't cheap. Even so, the school's $10,000 each school district might get would pay for a small portion of what that cost may be. Having staff properly trained also greatly reduces the cost of liability insurance of having an armed staff. What about hang on a second there. That kind of catches me. So having an armed staff raises the liability insurance. Okay. What about the liability insurance for not having an armed staff or anybody armed on campus and putting up signs that say gun-free zone? In my opinion, that should be more expensive. Because if there's no way to defend the school, in fact, the school is made a target with a sign that says gun-free zone, their insurance costs should be through the roof as far as I'm concerned. It can be as much as $25,000 to properly train and arm school staff, Fire Instructor Bill Talon of Cody said in a committee meeting via Zoom. Though not directly connected, House Bill 125 would repeal gun-free zones. We just got talking about that just a moment ago. Let me see. So that one's the one that passed the House, but is got hung up in the Senate anyway. I'm going to go back to what I said just a moment ago because I thought that's really important. I think that really is important. I'm thinking liability insurance here because that kind of caught me off guard as I read that. That's the first time I had read through to that part of the story. And I thought, wait a second here. Okay. So insurance companies are saying that if there are weapons in the school, so teachers and administrators can defend the school should there be an active shooter situation. Those guns in the school would raise the liability insurance, according to the insurance companies. I want to have a talk with the insurance companies. I really do. Because, as our guest mentioned just a few minutes ago, if you take a look at where most mass shootings take place, it's in gun-free zones. There's a sign that says it's a gun-free zone. Nobody in the facility has any kind of defensive measure at all. That makes the place highly vulnerable. And also, because there's a sign out front that says gun-free zone, it makes the place a target. That has been the case every time there's an active shooter. They look for soft targets like that. They don't go into the places. There's a sign I've seen, people have sent it to me here on this program. There's a school in Texas, as one example, that put up a sign that basically says their teachers are armed and will defend. Those places don't get hit like the other places do, right? So shouldn't the liability insurance be up on a school that has a gun-free zone sign and be lower on schools that actually defend themselves? Bill is in Laramie County. Morning, Bill.
Good morning, Glenn.
Yes, sir.
Hey, isn't it kind of funny that concealed carry permit holders are liable for all actions that they do? So if they kill somebody or injure somebody just in the background, if they shoot their firearm, they're held liable for that.
Mm-hmm.
But or any damage they do with a firearm. But
right.
school districts and school boards and school districts aren't held accountable when they let somebody into the school and you get your child killed. They get off scot-free by putting up a school zone or a gun-free zone sign.
Okay. All right.
There's no accountability for their, they can put up a sign that puts my child in danger, but you can't do nothing to them about it if your child does get killed.
Right. And the fact that they put up a gun-free zone sign and made the school, not only does that make it a target, but as vulnerable as possible by saying we're not going to allow anyone to bring any kind of defensive measures into our school. Yeah, their liability, yes, they should have to pay for that. I got to run for news time, Bill. Thanks for calling in. Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. That's news time. After local news update on your weather forecast, you and I get back into it again. Oh, Don Day will be on with me. Let me see. First off, I have our man in Cheyenne, Doug, with our legislative report. Then Don Day's after that. He's going to update you on your weather forecast. Frank's got sports, so the next half hour is busy. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
Live and local, all across Wyoming. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join in at 888-97-WOODS or the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
7:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. As long as I was on the gun story thing this hour, one more for you. Here's a headline. Unsafe handling of a firearm sends 18-year-old to the hospital. Now, what I like about the headline is unsafe handling of a firearm. In other words, we're not blaming the gun here. Don't blame the gun. This young person is 18 years old, and they weren't handling the gun properly, probably because they were never trained to, which is why it's a good idea from a very young age to start to teach people at a very young age how to handle guns. So, story says, Sunday, March 3rd, police responded to a shooting outside of Dairy Queen, East Casper. Officers saw blood outside the building. According to the police department, an 18-year-old male was transported to a medical center. At this time, that's about all we have on that, other than he was messing with a gun and it was very unsafe. That's about the gist of the story right there, which to me, again, don't blame the tool that he had in his hand. Blame him for the way he was playing around with that tool. Okay, I think there's a big difference because some people right away blame the gun rather than what we really do need to blame is how somebody is trained at a very early age to handle guns, which this goes also to, there's various schools in Wyoming that, and I know that, let me see, Thermopolis has one of them, where at a very young age, people can go to a shooting range, and oftentimes you're using air rifles. These air rifles are not typical little BB guns. They're stronger than that. But they're using air rifles, and they learn how to use the gun. They learn gun safety from a very early age. I have friends in North Carolina, up in the mountains, and it was part of their high school curriculum was gun safety. When they were in high school, they learned. In fact, I was at a private school when I was much younger than that, and they taught us gun safety at a very young age, which is probably the best way to do this. That way, the odds of having someone messing around with a gun in a very dangerous way goes way down because they got that training at an early age and they understand what they're holding here and have some respect for it. So what you don't do is you don't hide that from them. Don't keep them away from the gun and act like it's a scary thing. Put it in their hand and show them. So if they ever come in contact with a gun, for whatever reason, they now know what they're doing and they have respect for it. 7:39, let's go to our man in Cheyenne.
Serious takes on local politics, or something like that. Tune in weekdays 6 to 10 a.m. to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
7:45 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Don Day from Day Weather. So, Don, I'm trying not to say that an atmospheric river is bringing us weather, but there's this long flowing, what appears to be something very river-like up there that's going to be bringing us a bunch of weather.
I like to use the word fetch.
That's
a fetch
better.
of moisture.
A fetch of moisture. Okay. But this is not, it's a long line of it, but it's not for everybody.
Yeah, it's a long, narrow stretch of moisture coming right off the Pacific, and it's really going to be narrowly focused from Northern California to Southern Oregon, across Southern Idaho, and it's going to go right back into Jackson and Yellowstone Park again. So they're going to be picking up more snow. We've got winter storm warnings for Jackson, the western mountains, the western valleys, and our winter weather advisories. There's also going to be a little bit of that moisture getting over the Bighorns into Sheridan. Sheridan's under a winter weather advisory. But like what we saw over the weekend, Glenn, it's going to be those western areas over the next 48 hours that have weather of any consequence out on the plains and along east of the divide. It's mainly going to be brisk with the wind, seasonal temperatures in the 30s and 40s for today and tomorrow. But there's a larger piece of that Pacific weather that is going to come in late Thursday and Friday, and it's looking a little more robust. I'm looking at a better chance now for places like Cheyenne and Wheatland and Douglas and even Casper down to Denver having a little bit of a snow event Thursday night into Friday morning. Not a big one, but a little one.
Okay, see, what I'm in favor of, because Jackson and Yellowstone are hogging all of the snow, that we just start trucking it from there to the eastern part of the state. Then it'll be all evened out.
Eventually, one of these systems will be able to maintain its integrity and get over the divide, and that's what the rest of March and April and May's for. That's when we'll tend to see that. The good news, though, is this water that's been coming into the mountains in the form of all this heavy snow is hitting the really big watersheds of the Intermountain West, which is all going to be good news for the reservoirs and storage for the Colorado River Basin. It's going to be 2 years in a row that a lot of the central and southern Rockies and the Southwest is going to have a above average snowpack.
Okay, now what's also good news is, according to your podcast with Cowboy State Daily every morning, you showed that when we get into this weekend, the plains area, especially around Nebraska and so on, they can finally get a good amount of wet.
Yeah, in fact, even down into the panhandle of Texas has got some chances, some rain and snow where those fires were. What we see developing is exactly kind of what we see in the month of March. What you tend to see this time of year, it's not so much the number of storms, but you get one or two or three spread out over a 12-week period they're just large. They tend to be big, and they tend to bring that heavier spring moisture. So we're just kind of getting things started.
Okay. Thank you, Don. Don Day with Day Weather. Yeah, I think that's something we ought to do. Since you're hogging all the snow to the west of us, we just start a whole trucker's convoy to bring. So it's fair and equal, right? So over we go to the ice box. Frank Gambino waiting by. Frank, I'm afraid to report this, but when it comes to sports, Americans are getting wimpier all the time.
In some cases, I think they're out of control even more, too.
Yes. Well, here's a headline for you from our friend Drew down the hallway.
Hey,
a new
Drew.
popular sport in Wyoming is causing injuries.
Which sport is this?
Pickleball.
Because old people play pickleball.
Yes.
That's why they're getting hurt.
So if you've gotten it right,
and I know somebody who plays pickleball in Florida.
Yes.
And they go, the other guys are going, hey, you're hitting the ball too hard. I'm serious.
Oh, God. Pick a bocce ball instead. That shouldn't hurt anyone.
I watched that too down in Florida. All these old Italian guys too.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so he writes, if you've gotten on a pickleball wagon, Casper Orthopedics offers a few tips to avoid. So you can get, you've heard of tennis elbow. There's pickleball elbow.
Well, here's some tips to avoid injuries playing pickleball. Don't play it.
Right, yeah. Okay, see, Drew lists here. There's pickleball knee, pickleball wrist, pickleball hip.
Elbow.
Yeah, pickleball hip is usually the artificial hip, too.
Yeah.
And then pickleball Achilles tendons. I mean, this just sounds horrible, Frank.
And then you could take just a shot I mean, like contact, like a ball in the head
Yes.
or in the knee or the.
Yeah, but these are not supposed to be hard balls, though. These are supposed to be like wiffle balls.
Well, I don't. Well, you take one in the right spot and you let me know how that feels.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. What have you ever hit? I suppose you have. Just played around with a wiffle ball for golf. Yeah. I mean that's fine. You don't have to walk as far, to go ahead and hit the ball again. I mean that's just fine over here.
Well, so at these pickleball places, and Casper just built one. I mean, I'm sure they have like dispensaries of Bengay.
Oh, they should. Yeah.
I mean, the whole place will smell like Bengay.
Yeah, well, it already does when they show up, Frank. Heating pads. It smells like old people, Frank, and,
That's what Bengay smells like.
But that's what pickleball is. In fact, rather than a bunch of cars parked out front, there's a bunch of walkers with tennis balls on the back.
And in other places, it'd be just golf carts.
Yes, right. Exactly right, yeah. So, yeah, they get out there and they pickleball away, and I wonder... Considering the age of the people we're talking about and the fact that they can actually get injuries, how long do you think the typical match will last?
15 minutes, maybe?
Okay, you're being optimistic, but all right, we'll go with 15 minutes.
Women's college basketball, the Wyoming Cowgirls on the road to meet San Diego State tonight in their last regular season game. The Cowgirls are 16-12 overall, 11-6 in Mountain West play. They can get a number 2 seed at the Mountain West Conference Tournament in Las Vegas if they beat SDSU tonight and Fresno State beats New Mexico. They could also be a number 3 seed. The UW player and Douglas High School grad Allison Fertig was named the Mountain West Conference Player of the Week after averaging 18 points and 10 rebounds in their 2 wins over San Jose State and Fresno State. Now, the Aztecs come in at 9-8 in league play and 18-12 overall. That's a 7 p.m. Mountain Time start from San Diego. Wyoming Cowboys will be at home tonight in Laramie to meet the Air Force in their next to last regular season game. The Pokes are playing out the string in what has become a forgettable season at 13-16 overall, 6-10 in Mountain West play. Air Force is 9-19 overall, 2-14 in the league. So this is not exactly the Mountain West Conference game of the week. That's a 6:30 start for the AA in Laramie tonight. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio and KCGY in Laramie. High school basketball, the state 3A and 4A tournament begins on Thursday in Casper, and the 4A games in the first round will be at Casper College. On the boys' side, Star Valley will play Cheyenne East at noon. Laramie meets Evanston at 1:30. Cheyenne Central takes on Riverton at 7:30, and at 9, Natrona will play Jackson. In the 4A girls bracket at the college on Thursday, Sheridan and Rock Springs at 9, Cody and Laramie at 10:30, Star Valley versus Cheyenne East at 4:30, and Campbell County will take on Kelly Walsh at 6. In the 3A boys bracket, these first round games will be at the Ford Center, Buffalo and Worland at noon, Powell and Rollins at 1:30, Lovell versus Wheatland at 7:30. Douglas will play Pinedale at 9. In 3A girls at the Ford Center, Mountain View and Torrington at 9, Douglas plays Lyman at 10:30, Buffalo and Powell at 4:30, and Pinedale will take on Wheatland at 6. The semifinals will be on Friday, and the finals will be on Saturday. In the NFL, the dysfunctional Denver Broncos will cut quarterback Russell Wilson after 2 years of drama and just plain bad football at times. The Broncos paid dearly for Wilson. They traded 5 draft picks, including 2 first-rounders and 3 players, to Seattle to get him, and then signed him to a 5-year, $242 million contract. So in 2 years, he won 11 games. Plus, the Broncos will have to absorb a whopping $85 million in dead salary cap money, which will handicap them from spending big money on other players. Wilson played better this past season compared to the first season, and that coach Sean Payton just seemed to never be a fan of Wilson. And this whole Wilson deal was just a disaster on the field and will have long-term financial repercussions for the team as well. Way to go, Broncos.
I still can't believe this guy's getting
I can't believe the general manager still has a job
really?
after a deal like this.
Yeah,
This is terrible.
Well, if you're going to offer that much money to somebody, I mean, there's got to be some guarantee that he can deliver.
Well,
or you shouldn't have to pay him.
there's no guarantees.
Well,
it's
the
a gamble.
Thing. I mean, we will pay you $100 million if you reach this level for us.
It kind of works in a way, yes, but in the other way, I'm like, you'll pay me $100 million because I think I can do that.
Yeah, that's okay. That's just bad negotiating skills.
I don't know. I mean, for the player, it's great.
No, for the player, it's fantastic. I want his agent.
Yeah.
I really do. All right, thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. A couple of things I want to go through next hour. We have one more guest, and then it's open phones after that. 888-97 Woods, 888-97 WOODS. Wake up, Wyoming.
And cold.
8:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Christine is in the studio with us from Jason Friends, who was glad to have the worst bowlers in Wyoming this past weekend to help out with the bowl-a-thon. We had a good time. We totally sucked.
That's okay. We definitely stress that all the time, that you do not have to be a great bowler to come out and support our cause.
Oh, we certainly did that, yeah. So, but still, though, we did, that place was packed out. How many people showed up for this?
So we actually were full. So we had 168 teams that participated. Wow. So each team had 5 people. So nearly 1,000 people over through that day came in and out.
Now, that was just Casper. You're doing the same thing in Gillette.
We did it in Gillette as well, and they were successful as well. And I can't wait to hear more about their numbers as those come in for them.
Okay. Estimated numbers, you think?
Yes, we are excited to announce that the 26th Annual Bowl for Jason's Friends event brought in over $400,000.
Wow.
So we hit our goal, and we're up from last year, and it's very exciting because our numbers continue to go up with who we're helping.
Okay, we have to remind people, for those who don't know, Jason's Friends is?
We financially assist Wyoming families that have a child with cancer, brain tumors, or spinal cord tumors. And financially assist meaning we get them to where they need to go out of state for the life-saving treatment for their children. And that is food, lodging, gas, and then also when a parent has to leave a job or quit a job permanently to take care of this child, we step in and make sure their household still stays intact.
Okay. How many people are you currently helping?
We have 159 families right now in the state.
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
Okay. So for people who need your help, they go to where?
They can go to jasonsfriends.org. If you know a family or are a family that have not been contacted, please give us a call. We are ready to go and ready to support.
Okay, now for those people who would like to, because $400,000, that's fantastic. That's really good. But of course, you need help, I would think, throughout the year in all sorts of different ways.
Absolutely. Our fundraiser, this is our one and only fundraiser that Jason's Friends does. And so it accounts for about 50% of the financial help that we do for these families. So we're always needing help throughout the year. You can donate directly at the jasonsfriends.org. Contact us for different things. But yes, we always still need the assistance.
Okay. When do you start planning the next bowling event? Does that happen
Tomorrow?
immediately?
No.
Tomorrow? No, a lot of people do that. It takes a whole year to put this together.
No, we usually start in October of each year, and our event is pretty well set. It was the 26th year, and it's always been the first Saturday of March. So if you are wanting to plan that and weren't able to get in this year but want to plan it for next year, mark your calendars for the first Saturday of March for the 27th Annual Bowl for Jason's
Let me
Friends.
bring up also, you had a lot of corporate sponsors represented there.
We do. We had 50 corporate sponsors, and then we had several that came out to support, including the Town Square Media crew, who brought in a lot of fun and excitement, and I'm glad you got to see the event and see what it was about.
Yeah, every single year, they always have me down in Cheyenne or someplace else, and I'm not able to go. So this is the first time I was able to go.
Right.
And again, everybody kept saying to me, well, you're doing really good. No. You just suck that much.
Well, good thing we weren't getting paid by the pin.
Yeah, that's really, oh my Lord. In fact, at one point, the announcers said, hey, we're doing a gutter bowl contest. Well, we cleaned up on that one.
I bet you did.
Yeah. But then there's the kids who get to put up that little ramp thing, I forget what that's called, and roll the ball down. And I never saw this before, but those bumpers for the gutter balls, they come up automatically.
Yep.
Push a button, they just come up, and the thing can go bouncing on down. So a couple of times these kids almost got strikes, even though it takes about 15 minutes for the ball to get all the way down to the end.
Right. And how many times those balls get stuck on their way down. And
I've wondered that. I watched the ball rolling down there, and I'm thinking at some point we're just going to have to go down there and pick up the ball and bring it on back.
Yep. We have good guys that work at El Marco that are on top of that for sure.
Okay. In the meantime, you also saw a lot of volunteers in there, too, that were handing out shirts and doing all sorts of things.
Yeah, our event is contributed to a lot of if our volunteers weren't there, we would not be as successful as we were. Great group of volunteers that work very hard from November through the day. It's a long day for us, but it's a fun day, and we have a lot of fun, and great group of ladies.
All right, jasonsfriends.org.
jasonsfriends.org.
All right, thank you for coming in.
Thanks, Glenn.
It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on AM 1030 K2 Radio. Join the show at 888-97-WOODS.
8:16 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. So let's get to that open phone thing we do every day at this time.
Warning. Wake Up Wyoming is about to enter daily open phones. This means that anyone will be allowed to call in and talk about anything. I mean, imagine if we actually allowed you on air to say anything you wanted. Scary, right? Well, we're just that brand of crazy. If you are offended by what other people think, then maybe you want to tune out right about now. Just saying. If you should choose to call, just remember, the more funny and interesting you are, the longer Glenn will keep you on the line. Obnoxious jerks will be hung up on. Dave. All right, strap in and let's do this thing.
888-97, what's the phone number? 888-97-WOODS. Okay, right now, hey, Colorado. You're part of Super Tuesday, right? So voting is happening in Colorado right now. And this is driving some people absolutely nuts because they go to the polls, a lot of Democrats down there, and Trump is still on the ballot. I can go ahead and do that because I know none of them down there are listening to this radio program. There's Republicans listening to this program. Some libertarians, a whole lot of conservatives, but not, So earlier this morning, I just want to go through it for the crowd that arrives later. I went through some of the biggest meltdowns because of the Supreme Court verdict, which I thought was just absolutely hysterical. So here essentially is what the Supreme Court did. Now, my argument, and I found out I wasn't the only one making this argument, my argument was Trump has never been charged officially with insurrection. Therefore, he's never been brought to trial. You've heard me say this, and therefore he's not been convicted by a jury of his peers. Therefore, no insurrection, right? The court handled it a different way. The court, in a 9-0 decision, which you'll see in these freakouts by the left, you'll see and hear that they just can't handle that it was a 9-0 decision because there's 3 members of the court that are very liberal. But what the court was saying is, look, if a couple of states, let's say California and New York, decided to throw a candidate off the ballot during the primary, or general for that matter, then they deprive the rest of it's going to wreck it for the rest of the country that might want to vote for this person. So that really isn't fair. 1 or 2 states can't decide it for the whole nation by their courts throwing somebody off the ballot. Instead, the American people need to vote or not. The American people will decide at the ballot box. But also, the decision to charge someone with insurrection is up to Congress. It's not up to a Colorado court or any other state's court. It's up to Congress. That's the way it's written into the Constitution. So Congress hadn't done that. Upon hearing this, today, there's a few Democrats in the House of Representatives that are trying to pass a bill to charge Trump with insurrection, but of course, that's not going to get through. But they're going to give it a shot anyway. Meantime, Democrats in Colorado are going to vote today. Today's Super Tuesday, and he's still on the ballot, and this is going to drive them absolutely nuts. So, okay. This is the Colorado Secretary of State, and she was being interviewed, of all places, of course, on MSNBC. Now, just so you know, you're not going to be able to see this because this is, it's radio. The expression on her face as she speaks, picture about the most condescending expression that you can imagine. And that's what she's doing.
My larger reaction is disappointment. I do believe that states should be able, under our Constitution, to bar oath-breaking insurrectionists. And ultimately, this decision leaves open the door for Congress to act to pass authorizing legislation. But we know that Congress is a nearly non-functioning body.
Thank God.
So ultimately, it will be up to the American voters to save our democracy in November.
Yeah, and again, just think about the most condescending expression as she says that. And some of these people seem really disappointed as I read these comments to you, the next few, that it's going to be up to the voters. Yeah, it's not oh my gosh, you're actually going to let the people decide this? Well, the people don't know what to do. They don't know how to decide properly. Remember, Colorado was one of those states that wanted to change the Electoral College so if the popular vote nationwide went for a certain candidate, then the Colorado electors would go for that candidate. That making it a national popular vote. And my question for Colorado Democrats at the time, then what happens if someone that you really can't stand wins the national popular vote? Then all of the Colorado electors go for that person. And you Democrats are going to look like a red state. Not a good idea, Democrats, but they still wanted to do it. All right. Keith Olbermann, what? Oh, God, but I like reading what Keith Olbermann has to say because oftentimes it's so unbelievable. This is one of these guys. You've met this type. I know if you've been around long enough, you've met this type. This is someone who honestly thinks he's the smartest person in the room. And yet, every time he opens up his mouth, every single sentence that comes out proves he's absolutely the dumbest person in the room. So I'm going to break down what Keith Olbermann said on Twitter. Sentence 1. The Supreme Court has betrayed democracy. No. The Supreme Court has made sure to protect democracy. And by that I mean because America is a republic, not a democracy, but the democratic process of voting. The Supreme Court has protected that. They have not betrayed it. Because you get your chance to vote for or against Trump, for Trump or for somebody else. That's your call as an individual. And the Supreme Court has just protected that. Sentence 2 by Keith Olbermann. Its members, including Jackson, Kagan, and Sotomayor, those are the very liberal ones, have proven themselves inept at reading comprehension. By that, he means reading the Constitution. No, actually, Keith, they know exactly how to read the Constitution. That's why they did this. Oh, sometimes they make decisions I disagree with, but in this case, they properly read the Constitution. Because if you want to get Trump off the ballot for insurrection, it's Congress that has to make that decision. Congress has to hold hearings, et cetera, and then decide to charge him with insurrection, therefore not letting him on the ballot. Individual states can't do that. That's what the Constitution says, Keith, so yes, they can comprehend that. Next sentence, and collectively the court has shown itself to be corrupt and illegitimate. So how is the court corrupt in this case? He doesn't... I know you don't get many words on Twitter. You're only allowed so many, but he doesn't show how the court is corrupt by doing this. He throws that out there, but... And illegitimate. No, the court is not illegitimate. Again, he throws out the word corrupt and illegitimate, but he doesn't justify that or prove that in any way, and they're not. But you'll love the last sentence Keith Olbermann tosses out. It, being the court, must be dissolved. Now, if the Supreme Court had ruled the way Keith Olbermann wanted, he would be saying exactly the opposite, correct? Okay. But because they didn't, the court needs to be dissolved according to the genius, Keith Olbermann. Harry Sisson, I don't know who that is. But I love this one. Again, Twitter. Insurrectionist sympathizer Clarence Thomas ruled that insurrectionist Donald Trump can remain on the ballot in 2024. That should be the headline. Ned, this is a woman who, she's on CNN, and Dana Bash is her name. I don't know. I don't watch CNN. She is not happy with this decision. She begrudgingly admits that the court made the right call. But you're going to hear at the same time, she hates that.
Unfortunately for America, the court isn't necessarily wrong that this is the way the framers wanted it to be. They wanted Congress, the people who are closest to their constituents, to be able to make the rules and the laws.
Now, I want to play that first sentence again here. That's just...
Unfortunately for America, the court isn't necessarily wrong.
Okay, so unfortunately for America, the court made the right decision. Okay. No, this just goes on and on. And there's some other comments that I can go ahead and read and play for you here. But this is absolutely driving a lot of people on the left insane, as you know. And I'm not going to bother with the rest of the comments. They're all just as dumb. But that was the freak out that we got yesterday. And there were some that were maybe a bit worse than the ones that I even played for you there. But again, the court, in this case, it really actually surprised me that the court made a 9-0 decision on this, because you have 3 very liberal members. But those 3 very liberal members were actually taking a look at not just the Constitution, but the consequences. And turning it back over to Congress is what the Constitution says to do. But also the consequences of what if some state like a Colorado, a big state population-wise, what if California just decided, well, we don't think so-and-so should be on the ballot for this reason. And so they just toss them off the ballot. And think about what that does to the entire nation's ability to elect the person that they want to elect. So let's just, for the fun of it, say the whole nation wants this person except California. And so California gets to remove the person from the ballot, meaning that your vote doesn't matter anymore, because they removed the person from the ballot. That's what the court's avoiding here. And they're actually allowing our process to work as far as your ability to vote, your ability to get out there and cast your vote, which will matter. I've said this earlier this morning. The people who hate this whole process, they claim they love democracy, as they call it, as they think of democracy, as long as you're doing what they think you're supposed to be doing. But the moment that you don't, then they hate democracy and they want you to be controlled. Let's see, Rhiannon for Danger, always when they get the ruling, they cry illegitimate. Yeah, whenever it's against them, it's an illegitimate court. I, John in Grand Canyon, Glen, they are so afraid of Trump in a fair fight. Jude in Mills, Oberman is so ridiculous. He complains about everything. He's 99% right. Yeah, Oberman's just an idiot. But I love reading him because he really is an obnoxious, condescending idiot. And to me, that's the best kind of show prep. Chet says, while most can't read the Constitution, they don't have a clue what's in it. That's why Democrats hate it. Well, here's the thing. Not only have they never read the Constitution, but they've never bothered to take a look at why it was written the way that it was and what the purpose of the Constitution really is. They just simply don't understand it. They don't get it. And so then they complain about what they don't understand, which is why they sound like idiots. All right. Good luck, Colorado. Well, again, Trump is on the ballot, and right now a bunch of Democrats in Colorado are showing up to vote, and they're going to see his name there. They're not going to vote for him. Of course not. But they're going to see his name there. That's just going to drive them insane because he's still on the ballot today. Coming up on local news, update on your weather forecast after that. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Download the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Listen anywhere and chat live with Glenn during the show on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
.36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, phones are open. 888-97 Woods. That's 888-97 WOODS. Talk about what I'm talking about. Change the subject. Fine by me. Regarding the primaries on the Democrat ticket, Chet wants to know, what is this non-committed BS? If you don't know, don't vote. Yeah, I guess because they want to make a statement. So they want to show, hey, I showed up. As a Democrat, I showed up and I voted. But I'm not committing to anyone because you didn't give me any good choices here. So it's just a statement. That's all that really is. So, all right, let's start in Wyoming with this next one. And again, you can interrupt me if you want to. 888-97 Woods, 888-97 WOODS. Oh, DJ and Delette. By the way, Keith Olbermann tied with Gary Busey As the biggest a-hole and stupidest guest I ever met in my hotel management job. I bet. No, DJ used to manage some pretty swanky hotels and some pretty impressive places. So she got a chance to meet Keith Olbermann and Gary Busey. And I can just imagine what you had to go through, DJ. They do honestly think that they're all that. And they think they're the smartest people in the room. And they have these massive egos to go along with it. And yet every time they open up their mouths, All right, again, and now by the way, these notes I'm getting like from DJ and Chet, and DJ's way up in Gillette. Chet's way down in Yoder, Wyoming, which is just about as far south as you can get, almost. So what they're doing is texting me off the Wake Up Wyoming app. So you download the app at the App Store, Wake Up Wyoming. There's a lot of features. It's free. And one of them is hit the chat button and send me text messages, and I respond to them both on the air, and I'll type back, which I do in most every single case. Okay, so let's go talk about a bill that's going to increase your electric rates yet again.
So put on your respirator and let's fix that generator. And while we're out, we'll mend our fences too. See, I'm not afraid of dying, just got reasons for surviving. I want one more day in the apocalypse with you.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the end times and all of that. That's why your governor here in Wyoming wants to get us involved in, and also apparently your legislators get us involved in carbon capture and sequestration, which costs us a lot of money. By the way, as I read through this, I'm reminded that I've read quite a few stories that have to do with Wyoming energy, of all different kinds of energy. And whether it's natural gas or wind and solar, et cetera, there's all sorts of matching funds that come with this. So your state government, as well as the federal government, for certain projects, hand out tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in all sorts of direct subsidies to these companies, which, as you know, I am more of the free market guy. If somebody wants to put up a bunch of wind turbines or whatever they want to do to produce energy, natural gas plant and so on, go ahead. Do it on your own money. Go raise money. Go get investors. None of this should be coming from government, because government tries to pick winners and losers, and they suck at it. So, okay. Cowboy State Daily headline, Wyoming House okays bill allowing power companies to charge for carbon capture. Here we go. The Wyoming House passed legislation Monday that pushed the deadline to install coal plant carbon capture retrofits to 2023. So push it back a few years. They're supposed to get that done by 2030. Now you can get it done by 2033. Now, part of the problem here is the power companies still don't know how they're going to do this. There are significant changes to the carbon capture legislation, the story says, that was made in Wyoming originally more than 4 years ago. But amended changes Monday will allow rate recovery from electric customers, as well as permit utilities to recoup federal tax credits, providing it installs lower carbon emission technology on its coal plants. Legislation passed 32-21, which has already moved through the Senate. And specifically, the legislation permits public utilities to establish a rate recovery mechanism that collects a surcharge from customers not to exceed 2% of each customer's total electric bill. The legislation makes it possible for utilities to recover the cost they spend on carbon capture technologies. So it's going to, the state is mandating, the state of Wyoming is mandating that utilities like coal power plants capture CO2 and maybe even sequester, whatever they're going to do with it, right? Pump it into the ground and so on. Well, in order to do that, that's going to cost a lot of money. And you know that the utility company doesn't want to be stuck with that bill. That's a mandate by government. That's going to cost the utility companies a lot of money. Well, they don't want to get stuck with that bill. They're being mandated to do it. So they're saying we would like to charge our customers more to make up the loss. So once again, your electric bill is going to go up because of all of this carbon capture, which is one of the reasons I've been asking different legislators out there. Some of it's been heard, but not enough. Just let's put an end to this whole carbon capture nonsense. Let's just stop it. In the story that I put up on the Wake Up Wyoming site, which you can take a look at, it talks about this, what I'm reading now. But it goes on to show that around the world, not just around the country, but around the world, carbon capture is not working. They don't know how to do this. It's costing a lot of money, not working, and many places have given up on it. But all right. The story says Representative Donald Burkhart, Republican Rawlins, chairman of the House Mineral Business and Economic Development Committees, said Monday that the legislator, Senate File 42, is needed to reflect the shortcoming of the original laws enacted 4 years ago. He said that the House passed a version that now syncs up with federal tax laws to give power companies the ability to recoup some of the costs on investments, they call it investments, through expiring tax credits associated with new carbon capture technology. The goal is for public utilities with coal-burning power plants to reduce their carbon dioxide emissions rather than closing them down as an alternative. Okay, this is where we honestly need to fight this. No carbon sequestration, honestly, not doing it, and we're not closing down the plants. The proposal also changes 75% of the minimum standard of capturing CO2 into the atmosphere for our current 90% level. None of these levels that they want to do has ever been reached, by the way. They've never actually reached these levels. Anybody who's trying to capture CO2 never reaches the stated goal. Even though they keep pushing, they keep trying to. So, yeah, because of this nonsense, your power bill is going to go up yet again for something that we absolutely do not need to be doing. As I've shown before, not only is CO2 not a pollutant, but it's greening the earth. If anything, and I've listed on here, I've written stories about, but also talked to you on the air about, multitude of scientific studies that show, if anything, we should put more CO2 into the air, not take it out. But, of course, when those scientists produce their studies, nobody wants to hear this, right? Can't say that out loud, can we? Of all places that should never be involved in carbon sequestration, it should be a state like Wyoming. 8:45, wake up.
Got something to say? Call 888-97-WOODS or chat with Glenn on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app from K2 Radio.
I'm so happy to be here. Yeah. I'm just happy to be here. Still, I know the world's on fire, the situation's dire. A lot of work and courage gonna be required, but I'm just happy.
8:48's the time off. We go to talk to Frank Gambino, who's over there in the icebox. Okay, apparently there is a national tragedy happening right now. I suggest, Frank, you lock all the doors and stay inside until Facebook gets back up again.
You know what? I would normally say that some time off from Facebook is a good thing, except what we do for work.
Yes,
we have to use it. So this is a national thing?
I don't know how big it is because I can't get on Facebook to find out. But no, as I went down the hallway, sometimes during the longer news breaks, I have to get up. I have to stretch my legs. I've been sitting too long. And I walk on down and I bother Miss Mary, which I'm sure every time I walk into the room, she's like, oh, God.
I say way she looks at me like it's
hell. So anyway, and here comes our friend Sean, DJ Nike, who so about Facebook. And so they start talking about that it's down. And it turns out I know it's around our area because nobody in our area is able to get on right now anyway, last I looked. Now, this means that a whole bunch of people sitting in coffee shops all of a sudden are in panic mode because they might have to make eye contact with people around them.
Yeah, or go on a different app like... You know,
I mean,
does MySpace even exist anymore?
No, I suppose it's out there somewhere. Believe it or not, I still have AOL Mail.
Well, really? It still exists?
It does. Now, the rest of AOL sucks. It used to be the way to go. It used to be really great. But now I only use AOL for mail because I had some great mailing addresses, which I wouldn't say on the air. I just love the name that I gave myself, and I don't want to change that. Other than that, I don't go there anymore. MySpace, I don't know.
All right, people. People, remain calm.
Yes, remain calm.
Remain calm. We will.
I like this. Miss Mary says they should go do something like the Wake Up Wyoming app. You see how she slid that little plug in there?
Yeah,
See?
but...
But you can't really talk to anybody. Well, now you can talk to me off the Wake Up Wyoming app. You can go ahead and send me text messages, and I'll answer back.
Yeah, but our company keeps score.
Don't panic.
Remain calm. Women's college basketball, the Wyoming Cowgirls will be on the road to meet San Diego State in their last regular season game. Cowgirls are 16-12 overall and 11-6 in Mountain West play. They can get a number 2 seed at the Mountain West tournament next week in Las Vegas if they beat SDSU tonight and Fresno State beats New Mexico. UW player and Douglas High School grad Allison Ferdig was named the Mountain West Conference Player of the Week after averaging 18 points and 10 rebounds a game in their 2 wins over San Jose State and Fresno State. The Aztecs are 9-8 in league play, 18-12 overall. It's a 7 p.m. start Mountain Time from San Diego. Wyoming Cowboys will be at home tonight in Laramie to meet the Air Force Academy in their next to last regular season game. Folks are playing out the string in what has become a forgettable season at 13-16 overall, 6-10 in Mountain West play. Air Force is 9-19 overall, 2-4 in league play, so it's not exactly the Mountain West Conference game of the week by many stretch. That's a 6:30 start from the AA in Laramie. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KCGY in Laramie. High school basketball, the state 3A and 4A tournament starts on Thursday in Casper and 4A. The first round games will be at Casper College. On the boys' side, Star Valley will play Cheyenne East at noon. Laramie takes on Evanston at 1:30. Cheyenne Central entertains Riverton at 7:30. And at 9, Netzero plays Jackson. The 4A girls' games at the college on Thursday. Sheridan and Rock Springs at 9. Cody and Laramie at 10:30. Star Valley and Cheyenne East at 4:30. Campbell County will take on Kelly Walsh at 6. In the 3A boys bracket at the Ford Center on Thursday, Buffalo and Worland at noon. And for the boys, Powell and Rollins at 1:30. Lovell versus Wheatland at 7:30. Douglas plays Pinedale at 9. 3A girls at the Ford Center. Mountain View and Torrington at 9. Douglas plays Lyman at 10:30 in the morning. Buffalo and Powell at 4:30. Pinedale will take on Wheatland at 6. Semifinals will be on Friday, and the finals will be on Saturday in Casper. In the NFL, the Denver Broncos, once again, they're at dysfunction junction. They're going to cut quarterback Russell Wilson after 2 years of drama and just playing bad football at times. And the Broncos paid dearly for Wilson. They traded 5 draft picks, including 2 first-rounders and 3 players to Seattle to get him, then signed him to a 5-year, $242 million contract. So in 2 years, Wilson won 11 games. Plus, the Broncos will have to absorb a whopping $85 million in dead salary cap money, which will handicap them from spending big money on other players moving forward. Wilson played better this past season compared to the first season, and obviously head coach Sean Payton was never a big fan of Wilson, and this whole Wilson deal was a disaster on the field and a disaster in the front office and will have long-term financial repercussions for the team. The Broncos have no one to blame but themselves because they could have drafted Josh Allen.
See, they could have.
He was right there waiting for them.
Yeah,
right there.
They could have just grabbed that, but no.
Nope.
And I think Wyoming Knights would have liked that better because Josh would have been right up the road, down the road.
He would have been the mayor of Denver right now.
He would have been, yeah. I think Wyoming Knights would have loved to have actually been able to root for a guy who's just down the road. We could still see him from time to time.
The Broncos,
nah. Okay, so you're not holding out any hope for next year?
No, okay.
All right, thank you, Frank. Good luck not being able to get on Facebook for a while. I don't know what's going on. Coming up on some local business. News time. Let's Wake Up Wyoming. Time is 9:06. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Yeah, we're into open phones right now.
Today's show is sponsored by ice. It's water, but in a solid state. Caution. It may fall from the sky.
And try out our new steam, a different form of water. If you've never tried it before, it's good for your sinuses.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. You can change the subject if you want. I'm going to try to get a little bit of house cleaning done here. Let me see. Congress debates spending bill with 605 pages of earmarks before the Friday shutdown deadline. Really? Well, I'm not surprised. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. Let me do that again. Congress is debating a spending bill. 605, and this is not the entire budget either. Just a portion of the budget. 605 pages of earmarks. Just the earmarks before Friday deadline. Latest spending bill includes $850 million earmarks to bus $1.8 million to expand LGBT community centers. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I read that wrong. I'm sorry. $850,000 earmarks for a bus stop. $850,000 for a bus stop. A bus stop. $1.8 million to expand an LGBT community center. Okay. Anything just to make politicians happy in their local community. Greg in Laramie on the gun bill. Hello, Greg.
Hey, Glenn, how you doing?
Very good. Well, the world is in panic mode. You might want to stay inside for a while, especially in a college town like you're in. Facebook is down, and so is Instagram.
Well, wait a second, Glenn. I'm in the home state of your birth, near where you were hatched.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Where are you at?
I am in Fort Myers, actually.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Now,
going to be heading out to do a little kayaking down to the mangrove swamps here soon. But
oh, that's so cool that you're there. Okay. Now, I'm glad that you're there. I would advise, and normally I would never say this, don't go to Sanibel and Captiva. They're still in reconstruction mode. You're just going to get caught in a lot of traffic, and it's all going to be vehicles that are out there to rebuild. So
too late, Glenn. Too late. I was in a 20-minute traffic jam. I walked faster to get off the island than the car got.
Oh God! All right. So why are you there in Fort Myers?
Well, friends of mine that used to be professors, and all the Ohio people. Yeah, they're just in training to become Florida men. And they've all become Florida men.
Here's the thing, and tell your Ohio friends there, they might be able to confirm this. When I was growing up around Fort Myers and Sanibel and Captiva, we had jokes about Ohio drivers. Yeah,
well,
they were just horrible.
Everybody points. I agree.
Yes,
that's right. I did want to call about the gun bill.
Sure.
And so I have a few questions. I mean, I read that bill, and I don't know why they discriminate against open carry. I don't get why I don't want to be registered with the state, with the CCW, for one thing. So I guess we're allowing for laws to come in. And then the other thing, if you actually read that bill, there's no way, I don't know what you're going to change, because if you look at where they want to do that, they give an exemption for, if you sell alcohol. So let's say you want to carry at University of Wyoming. Well, they sell alcohol at University of Wyoming, so you won't be able to bring your gun. So the whole bill is just a waste of time.
Okay.
I wish people would read a little closer. I guess the guy they brought to run Gun Owners in America from North Carolina can't quite read, but if he does, he'll find out that bill's not so good.
Well, it looks like unless they can revive it in the Senate, it's dead anyway. It made it through the House.
Well, not enough of them died, I can tell you that.
Yeah, made it through the House. It didn't make it through the Senate. So it looks like it might just be stuck right there this year.
Well,
but, they'll try to bring it up again next year. And then you also know, Greg, whenever you introduce a bill, by the time it gets done with the committees and gets done being debated, it's nowhere near the same bill. So it's going to be interesting if it does pass to see what actually does get passed.
Well, some are way worse, and some are even worse than way worse. And so,
yeah, that's true. No, that's true.
I'll enjoy your steak, Glenn. Have a good one.
Okay, have a good one. Yeah. So, Fort Myers is my old stomping ground. So, he said, my birthplace. I wasn't born there, but that's where I grew up on Sanibel Captiva Islands there. And he does. I will give Greg this much: when it comes to some of the bills that we debate and talk about, don't just. It's easy to find them online in Wyoming. Don't just listen to what you hear about the bill or even read in the news media. Go read the bill. And the nice thing about Wyoming bills is it starts with a paragraph at first that says, this is what the bill's about. And it's about something simple, to the point. Here's what the bill's about. The next paragraph is defining words. So there's no misunderstanding what the words mean. It just defines the words. Then after that is the bill, which is typed in double space, very easy to read, plain English, because they want to make sure in Wyoming that anybody can read the bill. What you have to watch out for is unintended consequences, because that's always the thing. Whenever you're reading any kind of bill, you got to take some time to digest it to figure out what the unintended consequences are. So that's part of what Greg was talking about. You can read the bill for yourself and judge for yourself on that. So, see, Chet, maybe Zuck's memory overloaded, can't steal data anymore. Possibly. Grandpa Rich in Thermopolis saying he got kicked off of Facebook. For those who don't know, I'm going to check again. Facebook and Instagram are down. Yeah, I don't know for how big of an area. And it's still down now as far as I can see here. I can't get back in right now. So that means that there's a whole lot of people in coffee shops that all of a sudden had to make eye contact with other people. And that's just, scary as all hell. In modern day society, we don't have social skills anymore. We really don't.
If someone asked you where the beach was, you could point in any direction and technically not be wrong. That's not a good enough excuse for your poor sense of direction. When your shirt is not tucked into your pants, does that mean your pants are tucked into your shirt? You are so stupid. Dude, why do we say we slept like a baby when babies wake up every couple of hours? That's a good question. Good-looking people with terrible personalities are just real-life clickbait. Yeah. If your house was on fire while you were in the shower, would you survive? You want to test it? No, I'm good. Shame. You scare me.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
9:20 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Back to the phones we go. Morning, Rick.
Good morning, Glenn. How are you?
Good, sir. What you got?
Hey, I just wanted to touch base. You and I agree wholeheartedly on private sector and government-run businesses.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about the VA for just a moment. As compared to what the VA has done for veterans with TPI, PTSD, mental illness, and homelessness, look at companies like that are private sector, Wounded Warriors Foundation, Tunnel to Towers. Look at the things that they've done.
Mm-hmm.
If that's not enough proof for people that get the government out of business, let the private sector take care of what the private sector does best.
Yeah.
Business.
Oh, yeah.
We would all be that much better off, and our taxes would look much nicer.
Exactly right. So you're correct me if I'm wrong on it, because every time I've never had to deal with the VA, other than when I was home caring my dad, I tried to take him to a VA hospital, and it was so bad, I got him out of there and went to a private hospital and decided I'm just going to pay for it. This is not worth it. And everybody that I've ever talked to who's been through the VA system, while there are a lot of things that are benefits, then okay, so there's some services there. But I've always thought it to be substandard, subpar, and like you're pointing out, the private sector is helping veterans in a much better way, and with a much better use of the money, more efficient as well.
Absolutely. I'm a veteran, and I like the Cheyenne Veterans Administration does a great job at what they do. However, there are private sector people that are just better at doing what they do, which is run business, find places that can help veterans. I have a son that's going through it right now where Wounded Warriors is in place helping him. get things done. Simple things like resume writing or getting a job. Who's retiring after 22 years. That's what the private sector is meant to do.
Yeah.
The government is meant to give us its proper role. Stick to the 4 basic things, and that's it.
All right. Thank you, Rick. Now you got me something to think about there. I appreciate it. So what he's saying is right. Rick's calling in from Cheyenne. And I've said this before, but I never thought it in the way that Rick just said it. So when you veterans out there tell me if we're wrong about this, but I know that the Veterans Administration, VA hospitals, do a lot for veterans. But typically speaking, when government spends money on building a VA hospital and on running a VA hospital, massive amounts of that money, it just goes to waste on what is a very inefficient system. But as he just pointed out, when you take a look at Tunnels to Towers and many other programs like this that are private sector that help people that are in need, that are veterans, that money goes to where it needs to go. And it's done in an extraordinarily efficient way. Now, nothing's ever perfect. There's always bad players out there. But the vast majority of time, whenever we need to get something done, my answer is don't let government get involved in it. Government should be involved just a few basic things. And this would be make sure we have a military to keep us in a bubble of freedom. Police and fire, fine. Courts settle our disputes, good. We have, let them build some roads and bridges, but not a whole lot else, not too much else. Because the people who are in government, as you've seen, don't know what they're doing. They really don't have any idea how to do anything. These people have never run a hospital. Your politicians and bureaucrats don't know anything about running anything. That's why they're in government. Because they've never run either a hospital or a restaurant. Name the business. An airline. That's why I don't want government getting involved in the energy industry, like here in Wyoming. I don't want the state of Wyoming giving money away to the energy industry in matching funds or grants or loans or anything. Stay out of it because you don't know what you're doing. Let the private sector do what it does. Federal government, same way. Federal government's constantly handing out money and trying to run things. And the more government tries to run the energy sector, the worse the energy sector gets. Same thing with the automotive sector. Name an industry. That's why healthcare in America was running pretty good until government decided to fix it. And the more government tries to fix healthcare, the less choice you have. Remember Obama, if you like your doctor, you get to keep them. Lie. If you like your insurance the way you have it set up, you get to keep that. Lie. They took over all of that. And the system they gave us is a mess. And it's outrageously expensive. And yet their answer is constantly to double down on waste and stupidity. Grandpa Rich, the VA in Wyoming is way better than most of the states. I can believe that. I've heard some good things. I'm not going to say VA hospitals are totally bad. I was trying not to say that because there are some benefits that they do provide. Yet, when you go through the private sector, the services are so much better. A whole lot better because it's the private sector. They're competing for everybody's money. So I think Rick there in Cheyenne is absolutely correct about this. This is why, as more of the libertarian among us here, I advocate for the smallest possible government and keep government out of it. Even when it comes to things like when you take a look at homelessness in your community and you want to solve the homeless problem. I get it. So do I. And I really don't trust any government programs to solve that problem because they really don't. But I do much more trust the private sector, your church and civic groups, to solve that problem. They do so much of just a much better job at it. So I'm all in favor of let's make sure we have are helping out church and civic organizations to do the best we can at helping people that are in need, whatever that need might be. I'm wondering if I can find this in time over here. We are in an election year, so I get to go look this stuff up again. Here's the vote thing. Let's see. I think this might be the honest political ad that I was looking for. There's the Don't Go Vote campaign, lie detectors, stay out the vote, giant asteroid. Okay, let's see if this is the one that I was looking for. Yes, it is. Okay. A honest politician trying to run an honest political ad about why you should vote for him.
Hello, my name is Carl, and I'm running for Congress in your district. I'm not an expert in anything. Nothing. Not a thing. But I sure know how to look like I know what I'm talking about, and that's why I'm electable. I'm not an expert on guns, or finance, or science. Heck, I flunked science in school 3 times. I know nothing about automobiles or engines of any kind. I know nothing about energy, gas, coal, oil, green energy, whatever that means. I've never held a gun in my life, and actually I'm kind of scared to. But if you elect me into office, I promise to pass laws regulating everything that I know nothing about. I promise to act like the expert that I never really could be, because I cannot pass the test to get a job in that field to save my life. But I can regulate it. Yes, that's what America needs today. Experts in nothing to regulate everything. After all, isn't that what government does best?
Yeah, that really is. We keep hiring people who are experts in absolutely nothing to be in charge of absolutely everything that we have out there, whether it's a real problem or just a perceived problem. And there's the mistake that we make, which is why I'm in favor of giving these folks that are in government, whether they're bureaucrats or politicians, as few jobs as we can possibly give them, because, again, they just don't know what they're doing. The first thing to solving many of the problems in America is to admit that. Quit giving and allowing these people to take responsibility for things they know nothing about. Coming up on 9:30, local news, right after local news update on the weather forecast, another segment of Open Phones, 888-97 Woods. Wake up, Wyoming.
He's not a politician, but his pants are on fire. Could someone grab an extinguisher? Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
(9:36) It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Oh, this is great. I'm not going to have time to go through this. I have to filter this because, well, it's Joe Exotic. For those who may remember the TV show The Tiger King, based on the real character Joe Exotic, he's in prison, I guess, right? Is that it? Or is he dead yet? I forget. Okay. Here's the story. The other American quasi-celebrity, Joe, notably less deemed and more colorful man, et cetera, Joe Exotic, the Tiger King. He's running for president again. And he has a barnstorming campaign ad. I'm broke as blank. Know nothing about politics. But I can blanking guarantee you I'll listen to the people's voices. Not the rich people, not corporate America. I'll listen to the people that are paid salaries. All of you bastards out there. Oh, it's a great campaign ad, but I really can't play this on the air until I've gone through and probably edited out all the bad language he's going to use. Maybe I'll get back to on that tomorrow. Okay, now, earlier this morning, I mentioned that University of Wyoming, it's possible it might be dead this time around, but the Senate and part of the House tried to defund the university's Wyoming Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion program for a lot of good reasons. I've been wanting to do that for many years. Well, the University of Florida in Gainesville, Florida, has already done it, and that saved them about $5 million a year. $5 million a year on that program. Get a load of this. And this is a lot of what your universities are spending money. If you wonder why college is so expensive, this is part of a major reason why. Yale University employs nearly one administrator per undergrad. Growth came after Yale instituted a diversity hiring initiative and pledged to expand DEI offices campus-wide, which has nothing to do with the students' actual education toward the goals that they have. Now, again, like, for example, if a student showed up and wanted to be an architect, what does that have to do with architecture? That's what they should be studying toward, but all right. Yale University employs more than 3 administrators and support staff for every 4 undergrad students, roughly 1 administrator per undergrad, according to College Fix analysis. All those people have to get paid, by the way, with benefits and retirement. Over the last decade, Yale added 631 administrators and support staff to its payroll, according to data provided by administrators to the Federal Regulatory Education Data System. As the university embraced the new DEI efforts, the number of administrators and support staff increased by 13%, from 4,942 to 5,573 in just a few years. During this period, the number of full-time graduates at Yale increased about 20% and pretty much matched it. Meanwhile, the number of teaching and instructional positions compared to students decreased by about 6%. So they're spending more money on administrative staff and DEI offices and less on actual teachers in the classroom. Our universities here in America used to be among the best universities on the planet. When we talked about Harvard and Yale, Princeton University, and places like that, I mean, Lord, we had the best on the planet. Now we're doing this. This is where your money's going to. If you send a kid, if you got notice, hey, my kid's eligible to go to Yale, there would have been a time I would have said, wow, your kid's going to be a roaring success. They got into Yale. There's nothing but success from here on out. Boy, this is amazing. Today, I would say, oh, I'm sorry. You're not actually going to do that, are you? How about send your kids somewhere else where you don't have to worry about things like this? Okay, and they're planning to do more. They want to grow their DEI efforts at the university. So they pledged another $135 million for diversity initiatives. And the story goes on to talk about what they want to do. School attendance numbers have dropped a bit because of all of this, too. Yale employs a DEI official in his public health school, music school, environment school, nursing school, divinity school, drama school, university-wide undergraduate school, et cetera, et cetera. The story goes on. I'm going to have to read more into the story because there's a lot more to it than that, but I think you're pretty much getting the idea that this, once again, is what universities across the country are doing, which is why I look at even the University of Wyoming, and I've asked people in our state legislative body many times over, is there a way we can just get out of this? They tried this year. They gave it a really good attempt this year and almost got it done. Can we just get this out of UW? That way, if somebody shows up at UW, and I'll use architect again as a career goal, and that's their career goal, the courses will actually just focus on that, right? Instead of all of this other distracting nonsense, which isn't going to do them a whole lot of good in anything. I'm glad at least in Gainesville, University of Florida defunded it, saved them $5 million right off the bat.
To cognitive distortions. Cognitive distortion. No, cognitive distortions. Haagen-Dazs dispersion. Getting further away. Cognitive distortions. I don't know what you're saying. It's when you think things are different than how they actually are. Oh, like imaginary. Kind of, but bad imaginary. No!
Yep, there you have it. A new level of crazy. And you heard it here first. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. On air, online, and on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS. This is K2 Radio.
9:48 to time. Wake Up Wyoming, off to the icebox we go. Frank Gambino is waiting by. Okay, Frank, I came across literally a fake study that I think is true.
And you found it on Facebook that's down.
That's exactly right. No. It's on one of my favorite parody sites, Babylon Bee, which I think is funnier than Onion News, and I love Onion, right? So let's see if you do this. Okay. Study finds 99% of men pretend to use the force when opening automatic doors.
I don't. because I've never had that kind of power.
Okay.
Not even mentally, physically, even in a dream.
I see. Because
I'm the 1%er.
You are. Because I have walked up to the grocery store, for example, and thought to myself, open. And the door just opens. And I know that I have the power to go ahead and do that.
Have you seen, this is years ago, the YouTube video where the little kid's got a Star Wars
yes.
Costume on, and his dad is starting the car remotely from the house.
Yeah. That was a good one. There was also a guy who was dressed as Darth Vader standing out in front of a grocery store, and every time someone showed up, he would raise his hand up to open the door. See, this is fun stuff. Now, you might be an adult, but that doesn't mean you have to be an adult, Frank.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
A study conducted by the famed Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Now, that's
MIT, that's a big one.
Revealed the universal force usage among males of all ages when encountering automatic doors, with almost all test subjects admitting they were powerless to resist the urge to wave their hand up in front of the door. I have, in fact, gone up to a door and let's say there's a lady right behind me, and I'll turn and hold my hand out to open the door and say, modern day gentleman.
Good move.
See?
Good move.
I am opening the door for her, and they always laugh and say, well, thank you, which it does save me a lot of work of actually having to grab the door and open the damn thing. Now, what I'm more impressed with, and you've probably seen these, there's some videos, pardon me, of birds that will live in Home Depot, and the birds have figured out the automatic door.
No way.
Yeah, so the bird will fly toward the door detector and then away, do a big circle, giving time for the door to open. Then the bird will fly into the building where they've made a nest.
Are the birds smarter than human beings?
Obviously, because human beings can't seem to figure out automatic doors. I remember when I was a kid, it freaked me out. Walking into the first automatic door, remember they used to have the pad on the ground?
Mm-hmm.
You put your weight on the pad, the door opens.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
It kind of freaked me out a little bit.
I remember those. Women's college basketball, the Wyoming Cowgirls on the road to meet San Diego State tonight in the last regular season game for the UW ladies, who sit at 16-12 overall, 11-6 in Mountain West play, and they can get a number 2 seed at the Mountain West Conference, which will be next week in Las Vegas, if they beat CSDSU tonight, and Fresno State beats New Mexico. And then Wyoming could also get a 3rd seed, depending on what happens, maybe even lower than that. UW player and Douglas High School grad Allison Fertig was named the Mountain West Conference Player of the Week after averaging 18 points and 10 rebounds in their wins over San Jose State and Fresno State. The Aztecs come in at 9-8 in league play and 18-12 overall. It's a 7 p.m. start Mountain Time from San Diego. Wyoming Cowboy basketball team at home tonight in Laramie to meet the Air Force in their next to last regular season game. Pokes are just playing out the string in what has begun to become a forgettable season at 13-16 overall, 6-10 in Mountain West play. Air Force is 9-19 overall, 2-4 in league play. So this is not exactly the Mountain West Conference game of the week. This is a 6:30 start from the AA in Laramie. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KCGY in Laramie. High school basketball, the state 3A and 4A tournament will begin on Thursday in Casper. In 4A, in the first round games, there will be at Casper College. On the boys' side, Star Valley will play Cheyenne East at noon. Laramie takes on Evanston at 1:30. Cheyenne Central entertains Riverton at 7:30. And at 9 p.m., Netzero will play Jackson. In the 4A girls' games on Thursday, Sheridan and Rock Springs at 9 a.m., Cody and Laramie at 10:30, Star Valley versus Cheyenne East at 6:30, and Campbell County will take on Kelly Walsh at 6. Over in the 3A boys bracket, these games on Thursday at the Ford Center, Buffalo and Worland at noon, Powell and Rollins at 1:30, Lovell and Wheatland at 7:30, Douglas will play Pinedale at 9. 3A girls at the Ford Center, Mountain View and Torrington at 9 a.m. on Thursday. Douglas plays Lyman at 10:30, Buffalo and Powell at 4:30, and Pinedale will take on Wheatland at 6. Semifinals will be on Friday, and the finals will be on Saturday in Casper. And in the National Football League, the dysfunctional Denver Broncos will cut quarterback Russell Wilson after 2 years of drama and just playing bad football at times. The Broncos paid dearly for Wilson. They traded 5 draft picks, including 2 first-rounders and 3 players to Seattle to get him, then signed him to a 5-year, $242 million contract. So in 2 years, Wilson won 11 games. Plus, the Broncos will have to absorb a whopping $85 million in dead salary cap money, which will handicap them from spending big money on other players. Wilson played better this past season than the previous season. Head coach Sean Payton, never a big fan of this guy. And the whole Wilson deal, just a disaster from just any way you look at it, and it couldn't happen to a finer franchise.
Yeah, it couldn't. So, I mean, when you talk about how much money that is, I often
it's a lot
think,
of money.
Are they going broke down there? Or are they actually
no.
making a
The
profit?
owners of the team are part of the Waltons,
Okay.
who own Walmart.
Yeah.
You tell me if they're going broke.
Yeah, but you would hope. I'm just talking about the team. Though.
No. The Walmart will fund the Broncos.
Oh, I see. So this has to do with doing your taxes and wanting all the losses in the right places.
Possibly
a write-off.
Yeah.
So this guy's a write-off.
He could be.
Okay.
He's not a write-in. I'll tell
Smart
you
move.
that.
Thank you, Frank. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.